To be a kid. All right. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, good afternoon. It is my pleasure to call to order the regular PSVS meeting. It is the 12 p.m. PSVS meeting that's being called to order at 12:03. Sorry for the delay there. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Member Abernathy? Aye. Member Avery? Aye. Member Campbell?
Present.
Member Garcia?
Here.
Member Harmon?
Present.
Member Madlin?
Here.
Chair Ortiz?
Here.
Member Reed?
Here.
Member Rojas Mora?
Okay. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Public comments.
All right. Statements for items listed on today's agenda are given a 2-minute time limit, 20 minutes total per agenda item. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statement, give them to the clerk, who will make copies to the committee. If you are here to make a public statement, please fill out a public speaker card and hand it to the city clerk. You can find those speaker cards behind the partition in the back of the council chambers. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speaker cards?
Chair Ortiz, we have not received any public speaker cards for agenda, nor have we received any public speaker cards for non-agenda items.
All right. Not seeing a move to speaker cards in the chambers, I'm going to ask you to call the next item, please.
Item 3, adoption of minutes. 3A, adoption of the April 24th, 2025 regular meeting minutes.
All right. Do I have a motion from my
moved.
colleagues? Thank you.
Second that.
All right. We have a motion and a second.
Chair Ortiz, I will call a voice vote.
Yes, please.
Member Abernathy? Aye. Member Avery? Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Garcia?
Do I have to abstain if I was not here?
Probably.
I'll abstain.
Probably. Yeah.
I would.
Member Harmon?
Aye.
Member Madlin?
Aye.
Chair Ortiz?
Aye.
Member Reed?
Abstain.
Member Rojas Mora?
All right.
The motion is approved.
All right. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
New business.
All right. I think at this point, I'm actually going to exercise a little bit of discretion, and I am going to change the order of the agenda. I'm going to ask that we take new business item B first and move directly into city staff reports. So I will turn to Assistant City Manager Hal.
Thank you, Chair Ortiz. We have 3 departments to present to you some of the accomplishments with the use of the PSVS funds from previous budget year. So we'll ask them to go in order of Parks, Public Works, and Fire.
Then Mr. Budak, you're up.
Good afternoon, committee. Darren Budak, Director, Recreation and Parks. I'm going to take a few minutes of your time this afternoon to highlight some of what I consider major accomplishments this department's done for the city and the citizens of Bakersfield through the PSVS funds. So, all right, as you can see, the following items that we completed line up with 3 of the 13 measures outlined in the PSVS committee. And it is the keep public areas safe and clean, enhancing amenities through the community, enhancing neighborhoods through additional code enforcement, and improved park maintenance. And here you can see the list of 6 items that was accomplished by the Recreation and Parks Department. I won't read through them all, but I'm going to highlight 4 what I consider the major ones, and then talk a little bit and answer some questions at the end. One of our major accomplishments has been going on for several years, and thanks to PSVS, we were able to do a total renovation of the stage at Jastrow Park. This has been requested for many, many years, and it allows us to enhance that park and then reinvent some of the community actions that are going on there. As a matter of fact, I will personally invite you that we're having our first event this Sunday through the hub from downtown, are having starting their concert series at this stage. And through this, we improve the stage, the lighting, the electrical, so we can now actually hold bands and stuff there. So it's a major improvement for this park, and we look to revitalize that area. Moving on, in partnership with the BLNC down there, it was identified when we first built this facility, we had some outdoor areas, and what we quickly found out is in Bakersfield, you need shade. You need shade everywhere. So we worked with BLNC, and then through PSVS funds, we were able to go out there and install shade over all these areas. And you can see the before after, and it's really, it encourages people to get out and use these areas now, which is greatly enhanced the use of this outside area, especially during the hot summer hours. And then this is Jefferson Park. This particular bathroom, I found out this morning from staff, was about 35 years old and was in major need of repairs and complete renovation. So what we did is we went in and did a site or an off-site build structure that is brought in and put in, and it's now what we call family type bathrooms, where it's a single user bathrooms, a unisex type bathrooms, so one user goes in, locks the door behind them. As you can see, there's emergency exits and stuff. And so this bathroom meets all the new ADA standards and really was a big improvement to this park. And then another bathroom, but this is a brand new build. This is something that we've been trying to get in place for several years. We have a very active group down at this park, at Stern Park. It's a Stern Park, the walking group, and they're very active in our community, and they're out there exercising all the time. And the one big challenge, we didn't have a bathroom there. And if you know anything about trying to get facilities installed after the fact, you know, getting restrooms and everything, it is a major undertaking. And staff took this on, and within 1 year, we were able to provide a new restroom for this group. So. And then that's all I have. One thing I did want to mention, one of the other ones is, it's not on here, but it's one of our accomplishments, is enhancing neighborhood through additional code enforcement. We were able, through the PSVS dollars, able to take some property down on Stockdale, 3737 Stockdale, and it was some property that was acquired through the TRIP program and was not being used, and we were able to reestablish it into our thanks again to PSVS Ranger program, and now all of our Rangers are stationed out of there, which helps with efficiency. It gives them their own place. They're centrally located in the city, and they're able to dispatch out of there. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
All right, I will turn to my colleagues, and just a reminder, if you just get my attention, I will call on you in the order I see you. So, Committee Member Matland.
Hi, I was wondering, in regards to the standalone bathroom you put at Jefferson Park, and it looks like you put another one at Stern.
Yes.
What do those cost when you bring them in? They're pre-built, and what do you throw a roof on them after you get them there?
They're approximately about $300,000.
Wow.
And that's for the building itself, and then there's all the site work and on top of that. So for
that's
the
just
structure
insane.
itself is.
That is absolutely insane.
I will add, though, with one of the things that might add to the cost on these is with the facilities that we build them to be as indestructible as possible. So that adds quite a bit of cost. We use the stainless steel sinks and bathrooms and stuff. So.
Well, that's just your infrastructure. I mean, 300,000 for how many square feet is that? You got 4 doors on it.
Yeah, about 400 square
400
feet.
square feet. Any builders here? How much is that a square foot? That's just extremely high for any building project. Oh, you're in building. Is that high? 400 square feet without the inside.
I mean, without knowing the construction of the material, it's kind of hard to say. But
Better be a
yeah,
bomb shelter.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I've seen the buildings, and they are pretty indestructible. So I mean,
Yeah.
but it is.
Use your microphone.
Oh.
Sorry.
But just getting down the cost per foot, since you're in that. That's just 300,000. Is a lot without even all the regulatory toilets and fixtures and rails and ramps very high. It'd be interesting to see what it is a square foot, and then, we could get a comparison from, I mean, it's nice to have someone who's in the building trade and he understands it somewhat on this committee, actually, because we've had a lot of things come through that I think are just extremely high. I mean, I know about rolling stock and that kind of things, so we're getting a pretty good diverse group here.
Okay. Be happy to look
Very
at those
high
numbers
to
and
me,
bring them
though.
back.
Well, what was the total project? If it was 300,000 for the building, how much was the inside?
For the site build and everything, project was, that's turnkey.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's total cost of the building.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that includes
All right, thank
all
you.
the furnishings.
Yeah. Seems high to me.
Any other questions? Yes. Committee
I was
member.
just wondering, what are the hours these bathrooms are open?
They're open during park hours from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay, so they're locked all night, so they're open.
Correct. Yeah, and that's one of the things, one of the benefits of our park ranger program. They actually go around and lock all our bathrooms and our parking lots up at night. But these ones are designed to have automatic locks on them that will lock at 10 o'clock.
They lock at 10 or at
10 p.m., yes.
10 p.m.? Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I thought you said 6 p.m. Is that good things going on after 8 p.m., particularly when it's winter hours or dark, to have those bathrooms open that late?
Well, our parks are open until 10 p.m., so we need to make sure our facilities are open because we do have people using those parks right up until 10 o'clock. So we try to keep those, where we have those facilities, we will keep them up during park hours.
Vice Chair Campbell, I think you were.
I had an itchy
Okay.
microphone finger, but I didn't.
Okay. All right. Back to Committee Member Madland.
Has there been any vandalism on those automatic locks?
Yes.
Hopefully not. Okay, oh man.
Yeah, yes. Unfortunately, there has been vandalism.
Yeah. I mean, is it cheaper just to use a standard lock, but then you have labor to go lock them?
Well,
I don't know what the answers are. I'm just bringing up.
Unfortunately, we a lot of times we revert back to the manual locks because they do get vandalized. Operationally and for efficiency, the electronic locks work great, but to your point, when they get vandalized, they are expensive and hard to maintain.
Yeah.
But in certain other parks and areas, we do have them, and they don't get vandalized, and they work very
Yeah. Is
very
it
well.
better to put locks on certain places and electronic locks on others?
Yes.
How much is a lock? I'm afraid to even ask, really.
Electronic lock or
Yes.
a padlock? I
I know
don't
how much a
know off the
padlock
top
is
of my-
because that's what I use, so
I don't have those numbers.
Okay,
I'll be
frightening.
happy to bring them back.
never mind. I didn't want to know.
Okay.
I did not want to know.
Ignorance may be bliss. on that one.
I'll guarantee it is.
Any other questions from my colleagues? All right. Thank you, Mr. Budak.
All right, thank you.
All right. We'll move on to Public Works.
Good afternoon, committee. I am Zach Meyer, the Public Works Director for the City of Bakersfield, and I'll go through a brief presentation about PSVS accomplishments for the current fiscal year 25-26. So the first project I'd like to highlight, this is our 18th and 19th Complete Street project. It does span from L Street to O Street, and we're going to start actually construction next week and do a groundbreaking ceremony on this upcoming Monday. But just some of the things I want to highlight in this segment is you could see these bulb outs that kind of protrude from the intersections. This is to shorten the distance pedestrians have to cross in conflicted areas and improving the biking infrastructure, the crosswalks, and trying to overall beautify the area. We'll say this project isn't 100% PSVS. There is CMAQ dollars that went towards this project that are federal dollars to help fund the project. Another one that was, the majority was federally funded is our Friant Kern Canal multi-use path, bike path project from 7th Standard Road all the way to Truxton Avenue. The picture on the right does highlight three of the bigger engineering obstacles, doing an undercrossing at the bridge at River Lakes Golf Course. We have an overcrossing over the BNSF Railroad, and tying back to the current Kern River Bike Trail, there's a bridge in the outfall location. So this project was awarded very late 2024 at City Council. Construction began January 2025, and it's still ongoing. But when done, there'll be this additional network of biking infrastructure, a Class 1 bike trail from 7th Standard all the way to the current Kern River Bike Trail. Some other projects that the committee has seen come through relate to multimodal demonstration and overall traffic calming, traffic safety related infrastructure, and as well as street lighting. So these are some of the more safety focused projects that we do. So first one, we did design what we call our Stone Creek Loop. That's a cross section of what some of the elements we'll see in the project. This isn't actually like a location within the city, but the thing I want to emphasize is you see on the left, there's two cyclists in the same area, going in both directions. So it'll be a two-way cycle track going around McKee, Stein, Acres, and Hoskins in Southwest Bakersfield. This project is designed, and we're getting close to putting it out to bid probably within the next 30 days. Staff has also worked internally on designs and layouts for speed humps and radar feedback signs. Generally, like a speed hump by itself costs about $15,000. The more we do on a roadway, there is some economics at play in our favor. So one may be $15,000, three might be just under $40,000. And we've also continued to try to do more street lighting projects. I'd say in Ward 1, Ward 2, where you have older infrastructure, a lot of that infrastructure came in without lighting. So some areas along Pacific Street, two areas in Chester Avenue, and the Oleander area, we've done street light projects to improve overall safety in those areas. One thing I'll add to the street lights as well is we have been doing more solar lighting. Cuts down the cost for having to install conduit. It cuts down some of the time working with PG&E. We went through many different types of options for solar lighting since Public Works maintains it. And we did find a brand that we like very well. And so far it's been giving us good success and allows us to do more lights for the same amount of money. And with that, I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
All right. Colleagues? Committee Member Matland.
Hello again. So I see some things, other companies, when they do expansion, everybody's on a budget, especially existing, which you already have an existing road, but they do have the prefab traffic calming humps.
Oh, like the speed humps?
Yeah, which can be installed and then actually taken out later. And if they're put in properly, they certainly don't move.
We have tried that, where there was one that came already fabricated, came in a box, staff had to put together. But because we already have so many of the means and methods in-house to work with hot mix asphalt and with some of our partners in the private sector, we found it was still more economical for us to
I find that
use
hard
the
to believe.
asphalt.
Really, I do. With
also-
labor.
Well,
and
it's also just the amount of time it takes our staff to do it versus working in partnership with the contractor. So we did explore it. I can go back and look at the metrics, but we looked at different options to try to do it as cost effective as possible, and this was the technique we landed with.
I just see, you see a lot of big companies when they're doing their expansions and or new builds, putting in these speed bumps. I've never seen any of them go to asphalt. They always bring, it makes sense to me how it would be cheaper. It's shipped in a box. You take it to the site, and your good prep and installation, that thing should never move and probably never fail.
I'll be more than happy to go back and talk with my staff and explore that again.
It's just things I've seen companies do, and I'm sure they're best practices, by the time they get done with an owner or a CFO or a board member, board, their prices, that's 15 to 30 is just high once again. All right, thank you.
On the Stone Creek Loop, how much of that is built? How much of that is done?
No, it's fully designed. We're
Okay.
about to go out to bid, but
Okay.
we're anticipating the engineer's estimates around $800 to $900,000.
Okay.
And a lot of that is again, this is kind of unique where we don't typically have two-way cycle tracks, and we also don't typically have a vertical separation between when you have a roadway having like a curb or some
Yeah.
sort of vertical barrier, and then the cyclist. So that's called a class 4 bike lane. So it is safer than just having the buffer.
Mm-hmm.
One reason why we don't do that a lot is because we still have to sweep the roads, maintain the roads. And if you put a curb up and then you have like a 6-foot bike lane, we don't have the equipment currently to go in there and clean it, or at least clean it economically. But with the two-way track, it's going to be, I think, 12 feet. So we could still get our street sweepers in there and do the maintenance we need to do. And this is also just a very unique area where the roads aren't fully widened and just it's kind of like a perfect storm.
So you are going to have the two-way bicycle track, and then are you going to keep a one-way bicycle track on the other side that is going with traffic on the opposite side of where this two-way bicycle track is going? Do you see does that make sense?
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head what the striping plan looked like. It might just because that might just be our standard.
Yeah. Or, I don't know what's legally required in the state of California, and so that's a whole other overlay. Just to ask, because when I look at the loop, I see it's right by Ridgeview High School, and I understand like the concept of creating multimodal right there, and that it would be helpful, but I don't know what's gone into that. I would just encourage you to reach out to the high school and make sure that they are aware of not only your plans, but also your construction schedule and how it's going to impact the flow of traffic into their school, because I'm sure it gets very busy there in the mornings. That's all.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
Regarding these bike lanes, I'm curious to know whether the city conducted some kind of study to determine how many people have asked for these bike lanes, how many bicycles are actually using the lanes, because this city has expended an
Now, Vice Chair Campbell, I didn't get on my high horse about the green paint. I figured that was table stakes. Like, I thought that we were...
Well, I'd like to know, because here this is the portion of the meeting where we get to see how some of this money is spent, and we've reversed the order so we can be pleased with the use of these funds before we're asked to use more of them. And I would just like to know, I mean, I'm a business owner, and when we prepare, say, an advertising plan, we like to have a target that we're aiming at. Who is it that may use our services? What are their demographics? How do we reach them? And it seems to me you could just make a lot of assumptions and then miss the target completely or overshoot. And I would like to know, did we have any kind of study? Do we have any statistics, any metrics, anything measurable that we can use to tell us how much of a demand is there for a bicycle lane on all the roads before we go to the extraordinary expense? And maybe this is something that should have been done. To quote one of our council members, this is just something cities do, right? That we just assume these things and we spend millions of dollars on them. So I would like to know what research was done, what study has been published, where can we find these statistics so that we can see where the demand is coming from for these extraordinary measures that are inconveniencing all the motorists and costing a lot of money. I never see people on these bike lanes. So I would just like to know.
So as far as studies and surveys and research, sometimes we do go out and we do check counts. We do pedestrian counts and cyclist counts. I'd say you would see that more on corridors going to and from schools. That's an area of emphasis where we see what the demand is like. More citywide, we did do an active transportation plan. I did look at the demographics of different areas around town. So there are some areas of towns where you see a smaller ownership of vehicles, and certain areas of town versus other areas of town, there's higher ownership of vehicles. So what this plan tells us is in the areas where there's lower ownership of vehicle, we need to make sure we do have better infrastructure there for cyclists. Now, do we, to the extent where you're asking, we have a lot of data or how much data we use to, I guess, show the worth of the project? I mean, we do have some before and after, but does it, on our current policy, does that stop us from doing a project if we see an area that needs it? Then I don't really have an answer for that right now.
Maybe I could add just a little bit. I think the question that you're asking, and maybe I can rephrase the question. And you use the example of, you have market studies. You have, hey, we're targeting this demographic or this audience. I think if you look at the data, look at how dangerous Bakersfield is in terms of bike safety. I think there's some data points we can provide you of how we rank nationally, how we rank in the state in terms of pedestrian and bicycle deaths on the road. So instead of targeting, like we're trying to build these lanes for an already built-in target market, we're actually just trying to protect bicyclists and pedestrians. That's the bottom line. And that's why some of the council members, and several of them, say this is just the right thing to do, because it's the safe thing to do, is protect the bicyclists as much as we can. So, and green paint doesn't necessarily protect them, right? It makes drivers more aware that is a bike lane. So in terms of, do we have numbers? Do we have, data? We do. It's mostly on how unsafe pedestrians and bicyclists are on the roads of Bakersfield.
Yeah, so data on prior accidents, types of accidents for vehicles, pedestrians, vehicles with cyclists, that does weigh into where we put this infrastructure in. So in that sense, that is accurate.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is two theories for why we need to narrow our roads and make these green bicycle lanes. One theory was that, well, we're focusing on parts of town where people don't own vehicles, and so they probably ride bikes, but we don't really have any data that tells us how many of them there are. So we can't really tell the public, when we're spending their money, millions of dollars of their money, that this is money well spent. And then, because that sounds really unconvincing, we have now, well, it's a public safety concern because we rank really high in the nation on motorist versus bicyclist fatalities. Well, this is obviously a problem with all public policy considerations when we're dealing with regulating conduct or regulating commerce or regulating human activity where there's an inherent risk. How many motor vehicle deaths are there every year with motor vehicle versus motor vehicle? Does that mean that we ban automobiles because it's too dangerous? So at a certain point, society has decided with dangerous things like driving cars or driving 18-wheelers or flying airplanes or any of the other things that we do, operating industrial machinery, things that have inherent risk associated with them. And society has to draw a line somewhere, or maybe we don't even consciously draw the line. It just happens because there are millions of people living their lives, doing their things, conducting their own business. And we have to balance the utility of the things that we're doing, like driving motor vehicles, which is extremely useful, or operating industrial machinery, which is extremely useful. We have to balance that versus the danger. And so sometimes there is a cost to that utility. And at some point, perhaps the government needs to intervene and say, well, the manner in which you're conducting your commerce or living your life is so dangerous and it's so costly that we can't tolerate that cost anymore. But my question is, what is that information? It seems to me this is a retroactive excuse that's being made. Well, it's really dangerous. Well, what do we mean by really? What do we mean by dangerous? What are the numbers? Is there another method of mitigating this? Isn't it already unlawful to ride your bicycle in the traffic lane in a dangerous manner? Bicyclists have to comply with traffic laws too. How many traffic fatalities do we have? How many do we have per capita? Is it because our drivers are driving too fast? Can we invest that money in traffic enforcement? I mean, are there other alternatives? And so it doesn't seem to me that there has been an adequate amount of attention paid to these questions before we went out and spent millions of dollars. And so now when we're presented with a presentation that says, hey, look, here are all the great things we've done with this Measure N money, and we spend it on these bike lanes that nobody seems to be using. Have we reduced the number of traffic fatalities? Is it proportional? What is the dollar value per traffic accident? Do we have a metric on that? We don't seem to have any information. And so when the voters of this community passed this tax increase, was this something they were considering? We're supposed to be conducting citizen oversight, which I don't know if anybody listens to us. But isn't this something that really ought to be considered? And that's all I'm asking for, is give us some kind of justification that we can then consider so that we can rationalize these choices and the expenditure of this money, because it's a lot of money. It's like the high-speed rail. You see all these comparisons. Well, for the price that we've already paid for a high-speed rail that doesn't have any rail or any passengers, we could have everybody in California could fly from Los Angeles to San Francisco 120 times on a commercial airliner. Everyone in California. I mean, these are preposterous numbers. Now, I don't think our traffic lanes are anything near that, but it's a small example of the same kind of thing. And is this just something that government does? Is this just something cities do? We shouldn't be doing things just because that's what other cities do. We should be responsible stewards of the public purse. And so that's why I asked the question, and that's something I would like to see as a member of this committee conducting citizen oversight, is what is the data that we're basing this decision on, and do the decision makers rationally contemplate that data, do a cost-benefit analysis, and then decide whether the trade-off was a wise use of public funds. That's all I'm asking for.
Understand.
I have a question. How much of the traffic calming, especially that has resulted in, call it road diets, call it, expanded bike lanes, has been 100% PSVS funded? The majority of it, if I'm check me on this, but you're using PSVS money as match for state and federal grant dollars to do the majority of this work, right?
Yes.
Please stop. Please stop using this money as match. That was the message that I thought we had communicated last year, which was, we are all very dubious as citizens on the utility, to my colleague and vice chair's point, of this project and this program. And it seems like it is being imposed on us because these are the requirements of CMAQ dollars or other things. We have to do multimodal. We have to reduce the amount of lanes in a weird desire to try to reduce vehicles miles traveled. Don't get me started on that one. But I've tried to keep this body really focused on what our role is. And our job is to advise on how you spend the money. That is our one job. It is not to necessarily run the city or opine on everything that does it. So, given the opinions on this body, please stop using these dollars as match for this type of project. I think as a representative body, diverse opinions, at least last year, there was unanimity that no one wanted to see this and that the people that we talk to in our neighborhoods don't like this. So please stop. And with that, I will shut up and turn to Committee Member Harmon.
Thank you. Just one quick question. Does this Stone Creek Loop project call for the removal of any existing drive lanes?
No, I don't believe so. We'll have the same number of drive lanes. The only thing that we did take a lot of attention on is, how far back do we stop that vertical separation, because people are going to be turning in and out of the neighborhood, going onto those streets, McKee, Stein Acres, Hoskins. They don't want to have people slow down too much just to try to make a turn into, a window where there's now going to be that vertical separation, that curb. So having it set back far enough to where cars can still seamlessly make these turns That was one of the things we tried to emphasize. But as far as number of drive lanes, I believe it's the same number of lanes as it is now.
Okay, thank you.
Committee Member Reed, and then Committee Member Matland, and then Committee Member Abernathy.
Not to belabor the point, but I would ask that when we're talking about these specific projects, that we hear the data that's attributable to the specific location, because some of the rationale in response to the Vice Chair's questions and comments, it seemed like those comments were like our city as a whole. And so I would say, does that even apply to the area that we're talking about? And then secondly, as we're talking about completing these projects and, you know, the success of these projects, are we having any real impact in the public safety? Because I don't necessarily disagree that there's some public safety benefit here, but are we having that effect? And I think that's a big question, because I think we've seen a lot of these efforts for several years now, and are we really seeing the effect of, you know, spending that money? So I would like to see on a specific project location, you know, what's the driver in that specific area, as opposed to just generally citywide.
Committee Member Matland.
I'll go back to the comment in regards to, and some of these things, it seems like we're trying to find excuses to do it. But the vehicle count in certain areas. Now, are there not buses? I mean, because we spend a lot of money trying to get people to ride buses. And then the idea that people are using bicycles in Bakersfield with the heat. You can't go to the grocery store unless you have a three-wheeler. And it just seems like, to your point, we're finding excuses to why we did it instead of being on the forefront of, like to Clayton's point, of why are we doing this? Is it a good idea in the long term? Because you can't, I mean, a bicycle, I've had maybe 3 guys in 35 years that rode a bike to work, but they eventually got a car, and it was because they were scared to death to ride a bike, and I doubt the bike lane would help them anyway, at the times they would travel. Anyway, that's my comment on that.
Committee Member Abernathy.
Yeah, when I hear about these bike accidents, I don't just take what's in the paper. I call police to see, and most of them are between 2 and 5 in the morning, Sundays, against traffic, against traffic lane. I just experienced 2 weeks ago pulling out on Stockdale Highway from the Stockdale Post Office, where I was going to turn east, so I'm looking west at the cars and the bike lane. And as I started to go, I had a pounding on my hood because somebody not going to work was coming against traffic in the bike lane. I could have hit them in a second. Fortunately, there was traffic, so I didn't pull out as fast as I would have. So you got to look into these accidents. I don't know if the council's ever presented it, that how much of this is people either drugged or drunk or don't give a darn, going against traffic, and they're in an accident. That's not the driver's fault. So car driver's fault. So I think that's important to know. We speed bump, we traffic smooth, but we could just give tickets when people are speeding. That's another way, and the city makes $350 off of that, or something. That's the way to do it, in my book, versus punish all of us for what a few people do. But I really think that the bike world is getting plenty of attention with bike trails, and we have a council that's pushing all that, and now they want it on the road with us, and my 4,000-pound car next to a 20-pound bike is really dumb, dangerous, and shouldn't be encouraged in my book, particularly if it's what I've seen in the accident reports, 3 in the morning against traffic. So I would like that to be a consideration. My other question on this PSVS project, it says accomplishments, 18th and 19th Street project from L to O. It says construction to begin week of April 13.
Yeah,
This is something we passed last year, and they're going to begin it now? Is that it?
Again, with this project, it was a huge corridor from on 18th and 19th going from F all the way to Mill Creek. So it took over a year or more than a year for the whole design, but we honed in on this segment between L and O Street. And so to get to the point where we are now, already awarding it at City Council, about to break ground. I do view it as a milestone and accomplishment for the department.
But the money that we voted on and the council voted on, I mean, I probably voted no, but the council voted for that. It hasn't been spent yet. The PSVS money is...
It's been encumbered, but it has not been spent yet, correct? Okay. Only on for design consultants.
Okay, because I was trying, when I saw accomplishments, I couldn't understand that. Thank you.
So, is pedestrian traffic going to be allowed on, or I mean, sorry, is vehicle traffic going to be still allowed on 18th Street in this?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I was like, sorry. I just saw only the bike.
On that
that
visual,
like
it's called a Sharrow. So,
okay.
I mean, bikes can go through there, but no, you see the parking stalls for cars to get access to.
I was like, are those bike parking stalls? We gone that far. That's next. Any other comments from my colleagues? Okay. All right. Thank you, Director. Appreciate it. Right. Chief?
Good afternoon, committee. My name is
afternoon.
Kevin Alberts, and I'm your Bakersfield Bakersfield Fire Chief. Today, I'd like to present a little bit about the department and tell you about some of our PSVS enhancements or accomplishments. The mission of the Bakersfield Fire Department is to protect, engage, and inspire a safe community through all hazard response and community risk reduction while delivering legendary customer service. It's something we really take to heart. Just some basic facts on the Bakersfield Fire Department. Your Bakersfield Fire Department is an all-risk department, which means any emergency that happens here that the police do not handle, the fire department handles. Last year, we ran nearly 50,000 incidents. We have an OES Type 1 hazardous materials team, and that team is actually capable of responding to any hazmat within the city limits and also has the certification to respond outside of the city of Bakersfield. And has on occasion, not very often, but on occasion. We also have a OES, Urban Search and Rescue Regional Task Force. That is quite an accomplishment. There's only 13 in the state. Our most recent probably deployment for that is on the Palisades fire at the beginning of 2025, where there were quite a few regional task force deployed down to the Palisades fire. And their main function on those fires are really kind of search and potentially rescue for any of those affected structures down there. We have a swiftwater rescue team which has deployed multiple times throughout the past couple of years, especially a couple of years ago when we had the high water marks. They deployed multiple times in 2022 and had nearly 250 rescues that year. Most of that was done outside of Bakersfield, in Merced and Elk Grove and up north where it was more affected. We provide some paramedic level care on certain of our apparatus. We also provide state and federal responses throughout the western United States. And of course, we have fire prevention and inspection services. These are some accomplishments from last year. We completed the fire department annual report. This is something that we started about 3 or 4 years ago. It's an annual report that just discusses some successes of the department, talks about some statistics, and gives the public just some ideas of what the department has done and where we're going. We've had some department-wide infrastructure improvements, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. We interact with nearly 15,000 community members. And a lot of people think as the fire department as an emergency response organization. It's more than that. It's about community risk reduction. It's about prevention. And we consider these community relation events, and some of them are pub eds at schools, some of them are career fairs, some of them are just talking with organizations and spreading knowledge on what to do during emergencies as very valuable information that we can pass along. We deployed to multiple fires throughout the western United States. I think the furthest that one of our members went was Alaska. And of course, our fire investigations division, our arson investigators, are very busy. They investigated 434 fires last year. And we deployed our paramedic bike team and UTV to multiple large events, Bakersfield Marathon, concerts in the area, and things like that. So our goals, obviously, we love the grants, just like all the other departments. We actively pursue our grants. As a matter of fact, just recently we were notified by Cal Water. They have slotted us for not a huge amount, but $13,000 for some equipment for our urban search and rescue team. Monitor residential and commercial build-out. Continue to enhance citywide disaster response. Expand the department's paramedic capabilities. That's something that's near and dear to all of our hearts. Continue to develop fire department social media sites. One of the things that we have noticed is social media is enormous, and it's a great way to get not only information to the public, but helps with recruitment and can help with informing the public about large incidents that are going on. Collaborate with our mutual and automatic aid agencies. We implement our WUI ordinance and secure funding to update our emergency operations plan. And then we already are working on the op area disaster response plan. That's with conjoined with Kern County Fire. So enhancements. Last year, as you can see on the right side, next year we're actually going to be celebrating 150 years of service to the community for the Bakersfield Fire Department. You can see those pictures aren't just pictures we've pulled off the internet. That's actual Bakersfield Fire Department. And some of our facilities go along with some of these pictures. That picture on the top there is Fire Station 1, our headquarters. And for many years, we've had to defer maintenance on those. And since PSVS was passed, through your support and the city manager and city council, we've been able to slowly start some of our maintenance and reinvigorating some of those stations. So Fire Station 11 had some bathroom and station repairs estimated to be completed here in a couple months, as well as Fire Station 4. Fire Station 3 had a roof repair. It's going to be completed in July. Fire Station 2 and 4 had generator repairs that were completed. All of our fire stations, with the exception of one, have backup generators. The one that doesn't, we're pursuing a grant right now to actually get a generator for that. And then Fire Station 1 re-roof, which was actually just completed recently. I thank you very much for your support on all this. This is very important. It's part of our infrastructure, and I welcome any questions.
Colleagues, any questions? You? Yes. Committee Member Malland.
Hi.
Yes.
When, maybe you've already done it, like an earthquake drill.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure in my lifetime we're going to
Yes.
have the one.
So
Say that.
yeah. So I
The
think
one.
I think yeah.
You know, just preparedness for people's companies, people at work.
Certainly. So every year we have the Great Shakeout, and the Great Shakeout, all the schools participate in it, and a lot of businesses participate in it. We participate in that also. I think one of the bigger things for public safety, and especially the fire department, is our preparation on our response and how we're going to respond to those. And we know earthquakes can be extremely devastating. And as we saw, I believe it was in 94-ish when we had the Northridge earthquake, the devastation down there. And that's one of the reasons that we really are pushing our Urban Search and Rescue Regional Task Force. That's one of their functions, is actually operate in that type of atmosphere as well as with the hazardous materials teams. We are also have multiple people who are involved in incident management teams, both state and federal incident management teams. And what we've realized, or what the state has realized throughout the years, is one department, and we saw that the Palisades fire is a great example, can't handle a large disaster like that. It's not possible. So we work closely with OES. We work closely with our automatic and mutual aid partners. So if we do have something like that, we are very familiar with the system as far as requesting those resources requesting them early and getting them here as quickly as we can, and then also having the expertise to set up a good incident action plan and a good management team to make sure that we address those needs. It is something that is always on our radar. And I mentioned emergency operations plan, where we want to get the funding to update our emergency operations plan, and that emergency operations plan would directly address things like earthquake, large hazmat releases. We actually look at the community and partner with like Cal Water, PG&E, and things like that, and look at what our risks are, and then plan for those risks in that emergency operations plan. We currently have one. We just need to update it.
What about a volunteer and training on that? That seemed like that would be money well spent.
It is actually something that
we're
we've
throwing it around.
Yeah, it is actually something that we have pursued in the past. What that looks like to me is a CERT team. If you guys have heard of CERT teams, I believe KCSO has a CERT team. It's kind of similar to KCSO search and rescue team. They're all volunteers. We would like to, at some point, establish a CERT team, and our CERT teams can have more of an effect on going out and educating our community members on what to do during an emergency. You know, things like turning off your gas during an earthquake and being able to turn off your water can greatly reduce the amount of damage that we can have in a community. But also during an emergency, it's another pool of people we can pull from to help manage that emergency. So yes, it has something. We also have our cadet program, which is something that Chief Patterson has really started, and that is our organization that it's our young people from 14 to 17, where we're developing them throughout the Bakersfield Fire Department in hopes that they'll take our entrance exam and become firefighters. And then we have a reserve firefighter program that are volunteers that act as actual firefighters. They just aren't, they're on a volunteer base and don't get paid. Unfortunately, our reserve program has dwindled a little bit because there are departments out there that are just hiring like crazy right now. So we're in the process of building that up.
And then I just had a couple of comments. As you've seen over the last years, or since I've been on, the fire department and the police department have really not had it handed to them. We've supported, I think, almost everything you've proposed. And then I wanted to comment, you know, even on your building projects, the costs and the prices you came in with, others should learn from, because I thought your costs, you know, on roofing and infrastructure and bathrooms and remodeling, not even doing new buildings, was really within line. And great job with that. It just was a good, sensible use of money and very well managed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Committee Member Reed, and then you wanted to go, Committee Member? Oh.
You know, I will echo. I think you guys have done some great work from an infrastructure perspective in getting some of that up to date. The one thing that came to mind for me, a question, you know, as we've talked about kind of the cost benefit of some of the decisions and some of the spending, as I look at, you know, some of your capabilities, you know, having a Type 1 hazmat team and having a, the regional USAR task force and a swiftwater rescue team. Has there been any cost benefit analysis done on, you know, with the mutual aid agreements that you have in place with other departments, kind of the redundancy of that, and does it make sense to maintain that training level and equipment and things associated with those types of levels of response and the need for those levels of response?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Great question. So as far as our automatic aid or mutual aid response, here in California, we have what's called the California Fire Assistance Agreement. So anytime we go out on a mutual aid response, whether it's down to Palisades Fire or up to Merced or Elk Grove or even Alaska, there is a MOU that is in place that provides full reimbursement for us. And that reimbursed salaries, it reimbursed overtime for the person that is backfilling for that person that's going. It provides for a daily rate on the apparatus that are going with them. So there is that mechanism there, and we do use that mechanism. There's also a small portion in there for admin for the people who are back at the city who are managing and completing the paperwork, working with OES on that. As far as maintaining those levels of service here in Bakersfield, we feel it's our obligation, being the ninth largest city in California, to provide those services. Bakersfield, the metro areas, I haven't looked lately, but it's probably right around $1 million or a million people. And we see significant incidents here in Bakersfield. As we saw just recently in Ontario, 2 days ago, where we had $1.2 million warehouse that burned down there, unfortunately. We see significant fires here, not quite that big, but definitely significant fires here. We rescue people out of the river every single year. I will say we don't have a large amount of hazmat responses, but that potential is here. We have the largest ice cream facility here with an enormous amount of anhydrous ammonia, as well as with all the ag and oil associated around this area. There's that potential there. And then our urban search and rescue team, they get a fair amount of responses as far as people on the bluffs or confined space rescues, things like that. We don't see a ton of large building collapses, which is one of the things they specialize in, but definitely something that we're ready for. So as far as a cost benefit with that, it's more about the potential that we have here, being a large city and being ready to address that emergency.
No, thank you for that. And I guess from the mutual aid perspective, I was looking at it from the perspective of, do we have that available? If you were not to maintain that, do we have that service available? You know, like, does the county, because I know the county has a hazmat
I see what you're
response as well. And so does it make sense to maintain that level of duplication?
So,
kind of the mutual aid perspective that I was thinking of.
Yes, yeah. So another great question. Yes, we do have that available. The only issue with it is it's a long ways out, and when we do bring that to Bakersfield, it's expensive. What it comes down to is Bakersfield firefighters don't get paid as much as LA County firefighters or Beverly Hills firefighters or San Francisco firefighters. And when you bring those departments into your organization, you are responsible for paying that salary. It's not a set rate. It's actually the rate at what they are. So to staff these teams, we're not providing any extra firefighters. It's our normal staff firefighters that we have on duty. They just have taken the interest to get the additional training, and then the really cost of the department is the one-time cost for the equipment that we have to buy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Yes, Committee Member Avery.
Great presentation, Chief. Thank
Thank
you
you
for what you and your staff do to keep our communities safe. I notice in your accomplishment, you're spending a lot of the PSTV funds for what I call general upkeep and maintenance. Is there any thought about putting more of that in the annual budgeting and planning ahead and not having to rely upon the PSVS funds to cover that?
Yeah, we actually do have a 5-year plan for our continued maintenance. We also do inspections of our stations every year to identify some of those things, and we do try to break them out between PSVS and general fund. And we like to be able to kind of look ahead and see, okay, yeah, we want to do this in the future and this in the future and this in the either farther out. So we do have that 5-year plan. Unfortunately, or fortunately, because PSVS is there, we're able to use some of those PSVS dollars to accomplish those tasks.
Committee Member Abernathy, sorry.
Yeah, I would echo what he's saying here, because Mr. Avery's saying, because I think I see things in here that would be anticipated. Like, I learned your new term here, turnouts, which is all that stuff you have to wear. But it seems like you're going to have to do that in time. And we're supposed to be something that's enhancing from where we were. So I'm concerned that departments are learning to depend on this, as when the council should figure out maybe better cut somewhere else so that you can be sustained the way you would expect to. So I agree with your comments.
Okay. Nothing else? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn to staff. Are we going to take a break at this point in time? Or are we going to keep going through? Keep going through. All right.
It's up to the committee, yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I'm just making sure. I'm taking the temperature. They say keep going. So let's go. I'll entertain a motion to receive and file the staff presentations. Sorry. Got a motion from Committee Member Harmon and a second from Committee Member Reed. If you'll call the roll.
Member Abernathy? Aye. Member Avery? Aye. Member Campbell?
Yes.
Member Garcia? Aye. Member Harmon?
Aye.
Member Madlin? Yes. Chair Ortiz?
Yes.
Member Reed? Yes. Member Rojas Mora? The motion is approved.
All right. I will now turn to Mr. McKeegan. All right.
That is correct. Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. Randy McKeegan, Finance Director for the City of Bakersfield. I actually am pleased to be able to present this to you this afternoon. I also wanted to thank the department heads for their insight that they gave you, for the accomplishments that they've been able to articulate this last year. Other departments also have done great things with PSVS dollars, but I wanted to just give them a shout out for their presentations. So now I'm going to provide an update moving forward into the next year. But before we do that, we'll look at the agenda first. So we're going to provide an update to the committee on an annual report that's required from an independent auditor per the resolution and the ordinance that was approved for PSVS, that this audit report be prepared. We also will look at a budget overview, where we are, what the outlook looks like in the upcoming budget year, related to that, revenue projections related to PSVS specifically. We'll look at expenditures as well. In light of revenue and expenditures, we'll talk about how expenditures are outpacing revenues in the upcoming fiscal year, and this has been ongoing over the last couple of years. We're going to look at processes we've been going through to reduce the budget, to reduce that gap between revenue and expenditures. We'll look at basically the timeline of where we are now, and then what is required as we move forward to ultimately approve the budget. And then Assistant City Manager Hallen will then present new PSVS project requests for your assessment. So kicking off, as I mentioned, the Measure and Auditor Report. Every year, the measure requires that an independent auditor assess our expenditures, our revenues of Measure N dollars, to determine whether they are properly segmented and not commingled, that the expenditures are properly reported. And they also provide an annual report showing the revenues and expenditures in the fund that we establish, specifically managing those funds. So included in your packet is the report, the most recently completed report. You'll see that they did 6 tests. The auditors performed 6 tests looking at revenues, looking at expenditures. Things like making sure, as I said, that the revenues are separately stated and not commingled. Also confirming that the revenues reported on our financial statements agree to the state reports. In addition to that, obviously, I said that they assess expenditures and determine whether they meet the 13 goals of the measure. And so they go through those analysis. They do sample testing of expenditures, and as you see in that report, there are no exceptions noted in that annual report. Before I continue, if you have questions as I move through this, you can just please interrupt me as I go through. So that's the Measure and Report that is, again, required every year. Next item is budget overview. So currently, I think those on the committee that have been on the committee for a number of years recognize that there's a lot of uncertainty in the economic environment, and we've kind of gone through this over the last couple of years. But there are some positives on the horizon, so to speak. GDP, according to S&P, is going to be around 2%. We are continuing to see growth in certain areas, but then again, there's uncertainty. We understand that the issues in the Middle East create uncertainty on oil and gas prices. And that therefore affects our local economy and affects our residents and how they spend their money. We recognize that there is high unemployment in the city of Bakersfield. We almost double the state rate. And so that obviously affects our base, taxpayer base. In addition to that, there are some, continue to be increases in inflation. It's going to be, based on certain analysis, above the sort of the sweet spot that the Fed likes of 2%. Is actually estimates that it's going to be 4%. So as we move through that affects, as I said, the sales tax base for the city, and so those uncertainties create uncertainties in that revenue stream. That being said, we have a sales tax analysis a company called HDL, and HDL does, based on their assessment of the industries that affect our community, they do expect a 2% increase in our sales tax compared to the prior year. But that is a limited revenue growth. At 2%, we've seen we'll see later, we've seen significantly higher revenue growth than 2%. And when you look at that in line with expenditures, we are seeing that expenditures are increasing higher than our revenue. So things like self-insurance costs. When we look at just the PSVS costs, PSVS, we have an expected increase in our workers' comp, our liability, our property tax insurance. Those are expected to go up about $400,000 just in PSVS fund alone. When we look at our fleet rates, the cost of maintaining our fleet, we maintain purchasing equipment, that's expected to go up about $600,000. And again, just the PSVS costs. Pension costs are expected to go up about $800,000. That's just PSVS staff. And again, if you're not aware, Council approved through negotiations with our labor partners a COLA increase for this year and last of 2% for our employees. So that's not final yet because there's we'll talk about some position changes and adjustment, but that's estimated to increase the cost of PSVS by about $3 million. In addition to that, I think the committee last year are aware there were some tax filing errors related to the measure, not for the city, but the individual businesses, local businesses were misreporting the 1% that was actually owed to the county to the city. So that accumulated about 2.5 years worth of actual returns. So they had to adjust our revenue down this year, in essence, to repay back the county amount that should have been allocated to them. So that affected our revenue this year, but it won't affect as much this year. We continue to get notifications from the state that their tax preparers they're continuing to report to the wrong entity. So they notify them, HDL notifies them, but certain entities are continuing to prepare erroneous tax returns. That is not expected to be as high, but it is something we have to continue to watch as we see these. They calculate the exact amount that we have to pay over the next year, or repay, I should say, over the next year. So we are continuing to watch that, but we don't expect that as a significant reduction of our revenue from that we did this current year. Again, those are some serious budget challenges that we're seeing, though. Now let's talk about revenue. So let's talk about revenue. Expenditures are going up significantly, but now revenue, as we said, is about a 2% increase. So what you see here is the history of our sales tax since we started collecting it in 2019, the first quarter of 2018, the last quarter, I should say, of 2018-19. So the blue bars are the actual revenues that we collected. That green line is the increases or decreases to that revenue. That green bar is what we anticipate to receive based on our HDL tax consultant analysis. close to $96 million. And then the 2% increase of getting us close to $100 million for the next fiscal year. The reason you're seeing a 4% decrease, I should say increase, is because the 2% increase is on the base amount of collections. In addition to that, we lost about $2 million, or about 2%, from those repayments. So that's why you see a 4% increase from the prior year to the upcoming fiscal year, because that 2% increase is just on the base payments. In addition to that, we have an analysis here showing the analysis of the last 5 years of revenue for by industry cluster. And what you see here are those industry clusters that have the highest impact on our sales tax measure is general consumer goods. Just a lay of the land here, the number that you see there is the peak, and then the amount that we anticipate we'll receive by the end of this fiscal year. So again, the peak of general consumer goods was about $31.8 million. We expect to really receive about 31.2 in general consumer goods. The next level or industry cluster is autos and transportations. There you see a significant decrease. Again, that is based on availability of funds of the individual residents of the city. 20.6 down to $16 million. So that's a significant decrease. The only consistent increase is restaurants and hotels. I don't know if you understand it, but every night I go out on a Friday night or a Saturday night, the restaurants are full. So that continues to be at least a consistent increase, but it's only at $13.3 million. But again, that gives us an analysis of what our major industries clusters are and what we're drawing from those specific clusters. So now we're moving forward to 26, 27, and really what we expect. So we're putting the budget is not finalized, so there's a lot of estimates here. But we do anticipate a total budget of PSVS of $17.7 million or so. So the difference you see there, that we had $100 million of revenue estimated, there are savings we get every year. It accumulates. If we budget for the full cost of an employee or full cost of groups, there's savings every year that's accumulated. So that allows us to have what's called fund balance to be used for subsequent years. In addition to that, we have interest revenue of about $500,000 based on the balance that's held in the trust and in the fund. So that gives us that $117 million. Again, projections of our current personnel shows that we have $62.2 million anticipated in personnel costs, 54% of the total. That's a 6% increase, or $3.5 million from the prior year. In addition to that, of that $62 million, 25% of that cost is pension costs. So as we move forward, ongoing expenditures, those are costs related to projects that we specifically related to employee-related costs. But in addition to that, it's the operation of the BLNC, the Barnridge Lanes Navigation Center. So those are items that are ongoing expenditures that we anticipate that we can't really move, that they really go with the salaries or they go with the projects that we're going forward with. There are one-time operating costs that relates to projects.
Can I interrupt you just 1 second?
Sure, absolutely.
Yes, Committee Member Madeline has a question.
I have a question. Well, actually, as usual, it's probably a comment. But then there'll be a question that someone else can answer, a sensible. So, as we all know, everybody keeps hiring and hiring and hiring, and you get bigger and bigger, and you never get smaller. And a year ago, or more, year and a half, I brought in an interim CFO. And I mean, I didn't believe in it at all. Absolutely not. You know, I thought I was a little smarter. Found out I wasn't. But we went from 147 people down to 91 in about 7 months. Never missed a beat. Shut down one entire facility, brought it back over to our main facility. But it just was interesting to see. I know we're talking about someone outside, not a city trained personnel, just a guy that comes in and looks at your operation and gives you honest answers where you're overstaffed. But I mean, for me to go down that many people, and I'm not talking about technicians, you know, that generate income and are busy all the time. I'm talking about just staff. And you know, I would have never believed it. Ever, but we did not miss a beat. No overtime, little bit getting through it, but it was pretty amazing. And it was difficult to convince me to do that, but probably one of the best things I've ever done. And it's just a thought of, because once you get people, you just never get rid of them until you have someone comes in and just tells you flat, you're wrong. So that's my comment. If anybody has any questions, I don't know how, all I know is we did it, on a small scale.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of people on a percentage.
Might I interject here? And as you are not just providing us this, maybe it would be helpful to give us some color on the city's overall budget picture.
Absolutely.
And the fact
Absolutely.
that from the city manager, there has been a directive to organizations to cut, and that is resulting in not
absolutely.
only... Yeah.
So thank you for your comments, Committee Member Madeline, and also Chair Ortiz. That is actually going to be discussed in the next slide. There are plans moving forward. So I'll get to that in the next slide. We'll talk about some reductions going forward. So absolutely. So again, the ongoing expenditures at $23.1 million. Total ongoing expenditures are currently at 73%. We have one-time operating costs related to contributions, related to contracts that we can pull back on at $13 million. We do anticipate another transfer from the general fund of close to $12 million to close that gap. And then we are setting aside, similar to last year, about $7 million for these one-time projects, capital projects like we did last year. And so, moving forward, we talked about this gap. And so we are going through a process right now of really going through and asking departments to really get lean on certain aspects of their operations. So we've gone through this. It's not new information. We've gone through it with our council before. We saw in our long-term projections the need to stave off these cost increases because, as I said, that revenue growth in the general fund specifically was not matching our expenditure growth. And so we've gone through, based on our long-term forecasting tools that we've put together, recognize that we have to start reducing costs. And so we put together a plan, and again, this is not new information. It's been disseminated in public meetings before, to really reduce costs over the next 4 years by 17%. And so that starts this year. When we look at our budget for this year, we are asking staff in the general fund to really reduce their costs by 5%. And then 5%.
But in my experience, asking staff, I mean, I've done that for,
sure.
Where can we cut? Where, I mean, and it was probably the staff I asked that needed to go. That's the bad thing. But, to just the outside, I mean, it's a horrible fact.
Yeah, for sure.
But sometimes the person you're asking might need to, be somewhere else.
Yeah, again, we asked them to come up with a plan. And departments provided a plan. And so we have in this year's 26-27 budget a reduction plan of 5%. So it's actually in the budget that's going to be proposed. And so you'll see some of that here as we talk through it, of the things the reductions that we're anticipating. It goes back to that cost increase. Those were our projected costs. Once we institute these reductions, those reductions are coming off the top of what you saw in the previous slide. So again, we've gone through, we've looked at highs and lows in certain line items, asked departments to look at that, analyzed best programs, the outcomes, analyzed the essential services, and made decisions on what type of services we needed to reduce. And so as part of that, we reduced discretionary costs by 8%. One of the largest discretionary costs is we reduced contributions to outside entities this year by $3.2 million. It's not on the slide here, but in addition to that, just in PSVS, we're eliminating 17 vacant positions. Again, we're focusing on vacant positions, and that will amount to about $3 million in reductions. So we're reducing vacant positions, and not just in the PSVS, but all the general fund in total. The anticipated reduction of vacant positions is 70 positions. So those are moving forward this year and are in our budget projections as we complete the budget going forward.
We have a question from Committee Member Reed.
Can you speak to when these vacant positions were last filled at all? I mean, is this, because this is one thing that I've seen in other municipalities where we talk about this great savings that we're going to have by cutting these positions that haven't been filled for God knows how long, and we're claiming a great savings. But in the fact of the matter is we haven't been spending that money. So a position that's not got to be anybody in it.
Yeah.
And so it's budgeted, but we're not spending that money anyway. So how do I?
So yeah, I can't
think
give
it's-
you. Oh, go ahead.
I have a problem claiming savings of money that we're not spending at the end of the day. So can we talk to, are we really actually cutting money that we are actually spending today?
No, I completely understand that question, and I appreciate the question. So we could provide some analysis of the 70 positions. What I would probably do is, we have a meeting coming up, but I think we could look at the 17 positions specifically in PSVS and give you an analysis of when they last had accumulated costs. So we can give you that. They're not all of the 70 that I spoke of. They've had activity. They've had individuals filling them. That I don't know the number specifically, but they had been drawing costs. I can't give you the percentage though, but we can get that information.
Committee Member Abernathy?
Yeah, in fact, you said the city manager asked you to, but I understood that since the last city manager left, there was 9 in the city manager's office. There's now 27.
That is, I think that's correct.
That's a big increase. I mean, he's asking you guys to cut back, so you might need to ask him to return the favor.
All right. Vice Chair Campbell?
Yes, I have a question. Your slide here says contributions to outside entities of $3.2 million. That's a reduction. What are these outside entities and what are these contributions?
Primarily, they're related to community and economic development. So they're contributions that again, the opportunity we have 2 meetings, so I can give you the specific entities. I don't run the ECD department, but I can give you the specific entities that those costs are being reduced from or taken from.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Were those like grants to?
Yeah, in essence, yes, okay. Grants or economic development, sort of different projects that
homelessness. I'm assuming
things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Why are there only 2 meetings? I mean, we had 5 when we started, and, any questions that are asked, we can't even, we'd ask them today, and I don't know when we're going to, get them by next week and have a minute to do some research,
And I'll let Assistant City Manager Helen answer some of that, but I think that our ability to give you the answers before the next meeting will allow you to then digest those questions.
I mean, we're not costing any money. That's one good thing. So we're free, unless that sandwich. I don't know.
Right. I think
I'm eating that sandwich.
when we get to the
but it's not enough.
Understood. When we get to how many requests that we're asking the committee to consider, you'll see how light we are this year. I think that's in talking with City Manager Clegg, we have five real projects to talk to you about. So it's not really worth 4 meetings, right?
Last year you
had 5 pages worth of items to review. So the content has gone down.
Last year? 2 meetings last year. That's my point.
Okay. Same
amount of last year it was just thrown on us, and it's like vote and go home. I didn't feel like we were, doing what we've been asked to do or able to do that.
Committee Member Campbell. Oh, sorry.
I think what she's asking for is a 1% increase in the number of meetings we have.
Yeah, exactly.
But maybe all joking aside, though, when there's $12 million of PSVS money that we're being asked to just throw into the general fund, that's $12 million worth of spending that's not getting any citizen oversight because we're not told what that is. So we have fewer meetings, we have fewer things to consider because the city, I guess, has decided, or city staff has decided, we don't need citizen oversight, even though the ballot measure required it for that $12 million or 11 point whatever it is. So I challenge that. I mean, I know we don't have a representative of the city attorney's office here. I don't know how mandatory it is to have citizen oversight. It was on the ballot measure. But when we're just asked, just give us this $12 million, no questions asked, without any accountability, that doesn't sit well with me.
Committee Member Reed.
And I would echo a little bit of that from the perspective of You mentioned 5 projects, but I'm looking at 5 pages of projects. So I mean, I don't know where we're going to pair that. Did we take some off the list, or?
I can clarify that when we get to
Okay.
that point.
Yeah.
Sorry to tease that out a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I was like, I still see 5 pages.
Yeah, some of them are optional projects. We'll get to it.
I was going to save this until the end at committee member comments, but I guess now is as good a time as any. I would really, at the end, the conclusion of our business this cycle, I would really request that staff go to the council, and I see the mayor is here. Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to appear before the council and make this request under public comment or agendized. That there is some clarity about our role. When I think of the other important bodies of this municipality, and I think about the Planning Commission or the Civil Service Commission, they do not have to try to sit up here for hours and grope for what direction we can divine from the council or from the words that we pour over in the ballot measure. That's not really an effective use of our time or your time. And to my vice chair and colleagues' great point, that's not real oversight at the end of the day. So I would really, if it's the only role is to, rubber stamp the audit report, then that's the only role. I think it is now time. We have lived with this tax and with this structure for 7-8 years now. It's time to get a little bit more clarity from the policymakers about what exactly we are to do and what our authority is, truly. Sorry. Yes.
We have no authority. I'll just throw that out there. But
agreed.
I do think that it's perhaps the city council could either pay some heed to the directives of this committee or confess to the public that the citizens' oversight was just something to sweeten the deal to get the tax revenue that they wanted to spend it on all the stuff they want to spend it on. I don't see really a third option. So, at the last meeting, we had a unanimous request that the city council be advised that our committee is willing to do a retrospective and look at all the things that have been approved, because as you can see, we get a few things now that are itemized that I look at these things and I say, okay, we had to consider these projects, but in previous years we've had a larger percentage of them. But every time something is approved, it's just that's in the bank now. There's no longer any oversight. It's just that's money spent. And especially on, $65 million worth of employee salaries, plus all the benefits and pension and all that stuff. So that's no longer to be considered by the committee. At what point does oversight end? Once there's been a vote by a previous iteration of this body with a previous city council, or is oversight something that's supposed to be ongoing? And that's why we've asked last year to make that representation to the council that our committee is willing to look at these things again and see if after several years of use, we still think that that's an appropriate use of this money. And I suspect that that was appended as a footnote in a larger report that was given to council members who may not have looked at it very closely and may not have seen that offer. I know that it would be an extraordinary amount of work for the city administration, and so I don't want to discount that. But I still think that the city council needs to be made aware of that offer. And if they just reject that, then okay, that is what it is. Maybe that answers his question as to what they expect from this committee. But you see my point here. Is there oversight here, or is this just lip service to the concept of oversight?
I'm going to go to committee member Harmon and then committee member Avery.
Yeah, something that might be clarifying would be going through the deferred business in the minutes from last year and just quickly running through our motions and then tell us whether those expenditures were made. I mean, it'd be pretty easy. They're all bolded. Starting on page 2, you got a motion And just, if you could quickly go through the motions and just let us know whether or not our voices were
So
heard.
had our city attorney been here, and I'm going to pretend I have a law degree. Yeah, that's
We
not,
can. That's not on the agenda.
That's not on the
and
agenda.
so
We cannot
I
do
get,
that.
I get,
Yeah,
I get
okay.
the point. But I think that as you're making notes for, what is going to come before this body, and just so everyone's aware, I am like triple booked that day, and I'm in Sacramento, so you all get to have fun without me. But I would really encourage you to take notes and bring this information, the information on the positions, information on the motions. My assumption, Committee Member Harmon, is that they were all approved by the City Council.
Oh, except for the last one.
Yes. All right, and Committee Member Avery, sorry.
I was just going to make a friendly recommendation. We go through the agenda for the rest of the meeting and maybe take the discussion, which has been a great discussion, to the right body, that being the City Council, and have that frank discussion with them is my recommendation.
100% agree. I will return to staff, and thank you for allowing us to ask you rhetorical questions for 15 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Continuing on, moving forward. So we have today's meeting, as it says here, April 9th, we're going to go through the requests that are in your packets there, the new projects. We are going to have a meeting next week, and I'll just say I will talk to the city manager about some of these requests, and if we want to agendize it, we could put something together. I mean, I'd be happy to give you the presentation I give to the council and general fund, so you just can see that. But I rely on the city manager on that. I defer to him on that. But we can provide. There is no real agenda yet for that. So the questions you've asked, we'll hopefully have answers to you for that, so you can digest them and then have maybe follow-ups, and then obviously gives you the time to look at these recommendations here and provide your recommendations and your vote on that at the next meeting. After that, I mean, you say not in here, we actually have, as part of the budget process, we've added April. In April, there are currently 5 meetings scheduled, meeting in the different wards, meeting with the public, providing them the opportunity to hear our current budget plan and also provide feedback. So those have been scheduled. First one is tonight, and then a couple next week, and then through the end of the month, we will be able to have that public feedback that will also be disseminated to the council. In addition, we have 2 committee meetings, or council meetings, I should say, for budget workshops. Departments will present their budget requests to council in May, and then the council will deliberate. They will look at their recommendations, have some limited adjustments available to them. They will make decisions on CIP projects, specifically those that are listed here for the PSVS, as well as our general fund capital outlay fund. So they make those final decisions as well as we move towards June. And then ultimately a balanced budget will be presented to council at the end of the last meeting in June for approval, and then obviously to be effective at the start of the next fiscal year. With that, I am available for questions, and then if not, I'll pass it over to Assistant City Manager Holland.
We have a question from Committee Member Garcia.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I know you mentioned some public workshops with residents. How is that feedback taken into account and kind of reflected in the budget? I know I'm hearing from committee members some maybe feelings that feedback here isn't taken. Do residents feel that way as well, or are they feeling like their feedback is being taken and implemented?
For sure. This is the first foray into this process. So what we actually will have some feedback questions, and I anticipate that those responses will then be sent and reported to council at some point during the May or June meeting, so they can understand where the public was. And actually each council member is actually going to attend those as well. So they will actually hear that feedback directly and understand, they can take it to council, they can put recommendations for it as well. But we will likely put together a report based on those feedback poll that we're providing, and that will give them an idea where the public is really, the direction.
Not to reopen a sore subject, but could we maybe poll the citizenry about their feelings about traffic calming measures?
This panel has not been calmed.
Not okay. So, let's Mr. Avery's point. Let's not get sidetracked. But just I think Committee Member Reed, and then did you have something? Okay.
Just a quick question. Where can we find the dates of those committee member?
Could we have the clerk send
not
those
committee,
out to
the community
Yeah.
meetings that you're referring to that you said one is tonight, and I heard those referenced yesterday in the city council meetings, and I was kind of like, oh, that would be great to know when those are going to be. And so to hear that the first one is tonight is a little,
We'll have
just a little shocking.
We'll
but
have our city clerk send you the list that we have currently. They're ward by ward. We have 5 wards that have dates set. So
Which
we'll set
ward is tonight?
Ward 1.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. You're up.
Ward 1.
It's that Golden.
South High School?
No, it's at Golden Valley.
Golden Valley. Okay.
Golden Valley. 5:30.
So
They're
glad
on
you
my
didn't-
calendar.
I'm so
I know
glad
that.
you didn't say 4. So glad you didn't say 4.
do you want to share your calendar with us? I mean,
We will have Julie send you those dates. Yeah. And they're throughout the month of April currently. Good point.
All right. Oh,
Yeah. How are these being advertised to residents? I know social media maybe is one, but
Yeah.
is there another form that we're encouraging turnout to these meetings? And could we also potentially get some information on how many folks do attend these meetings and provide feedback as well?
We'll definitely get that out to you in terms of the method and the how many people attend. We can let you know. Yeah. So I'm going to quickly go through the 5 projects that are in front of you. I know that there's many more. I think there's in total like 12 projects. So the other 7 projects I will identify as we're putting them kind of on the menu is what we're calling it. And part of the reason that we have this bifurcated into what are full recommendations and what are these optional projects that I'll refer to, or menu projects, is because based on some of this feedback we're going to get throughout this process, council may decide to swap. Last night, as you mentioned, Ms. Reed, that there was some discussion about the top 5 projects that staff's recommending of using PSVS funds, and then there were the other 7 or so projects that were in that other bucket of optional projects that the council may either bump up into the category of full recommendation or not. And so before I talk about it, I'll say this is a recommended project, or this is a menu type project. So this is a recommended project. This is our radio tower generator project. So this is the radio tower is a very large project. It's a project we're working with the county hand in hand. They have a very large contract. We also do too. This is a project that kind of came out of some of the assessment that was done in the first few years. All of the radios have been deployed. The towers are being built. This was an ancillary type project of a generator and a fuel tank. That's over actually in our BPD headquarters that needs to be upgraded. So that's what consists of this $738,000 project. This is also a recommended project. This is a $3 million grant match for MLK Park, and we've had MLK Park in front of this committee in years past. We have applied for several grants. In fact, we have a list of about 6 to 7 grants that are on our list of either what we have applied for and what we're seeking to apply for. This helps us in that matching category. A lot of times it's a 3-to-1 match, so we've got to put up at least 20-30% of the funds, and then we can get 70% of the funds for those grants. This puts more money into that matching category. It's a very large project. Obviously, the MLK Reimagined project of not only doing a very large community center, but 10 acres of park. The focus right now is just to do the first phase, which is not the community center, just the 10 acres of the park, and get the park refreshed. That's about a $23 million project. We have an $11.9 million grant. We need some match in that bucket, so this $3 million fills up that match. We have about $8 million set aside, so it gets us to that $23 million number that we're trying to shoot for. These 2 are not in our
Committee Member Matlin had a
yes.
question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Well, this has been, how much money's already been spent? Because I know there was fencing and then bathrooms and
I'm gonna pull the parachute and ask for
Oh, gosh,
our former Parks Director, Assistant City Manager
Well, I mean,
Anthony.
we've done a lot.
So there has been a number of things expended currently. A lot of it's
And is
been
it taking away from other parks?
a lot of it's been pre-work, like design work, outreach work, some of the planning work that has been done. A lot of the money actually has been from ARPA funds, federal funds. So it's not PSVS funds, it's not general funds. It's money that was federal dollars.
Well, overall cost is still, it's still coming out of.
It's true.
Pockets.
Yeah, there is about 3 to 4 million that we have already expended, and this is the ongoing design work. We went from conceptual, now we're in actual design, moving toward 100% design for the outdoor amenities right now. I think we've encumbered around 8 million, which does include, as Gary mentioned, ARPA funds.
That's with no construction or anything?
Not construction, just the design.
Oh my God, whose crayons are you using? That's just a lot. I mean, maybe I have no concept of.
It is a large project. When you look at the community center itself, which includes an aquatic center, event space, amphitheater, it is a legacy project for the city that we've worked on for about 5 years
But
already.
these are just plans, $11 million for plans.
These are designs, yes.
Oh, design.
Yes.
Oh.
It's also construction drawings too, because
Yeah,
we're trying,
that's what
we're
I
trying
mean.
to get it
We're getting to
shovel
construction.
ready. Right. Yeah.
We've moved from, we had a master plan for the conceptual phase. We've hired a construction management company, Griffin Structures, and now we're moving into the actual building documents, at least for the outdoor. The community center is still in design phase.
I will say
Wow.
that is, from my perspective, a relatively low cost for design
It is.
for we're in the master plan business, and so I can tell you that, in the private sector, to design a community center at that level, to get to construction costs would be significantly more than $3 million.
Yeah.
Hey, I got schooled.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving to the next page of projects. These are in the menu of projects. So Centennial Park and Westwood Park, sorry. This is replacing some equipment that is well past its useful life, usually useful life of playground equipment, whether it's ADA equipment or rubberized surfacing. Usually that has about a 20-year useful life, and so both of these are either right up against or past the useful life of the sport courts that they both have. And it's also enhancing our accessibility and ADA for both those parks. These would be on the menu, not necessarily recommended. Does not fit into that bucket of about $4.5 million of recommended projects. This would be a recommended project. It's our Park Access Improvement, or what we call our PARI fund. This is for a variety, allows us to do this on a variety of different parks. It allows us to do these projects very quickly. Sometimes it's a gate project that gets vandalized, or it's a canopy that gets vandalized, a shade canopy, and we just need to quickly fix those. This allows us, the parks, not to create a CIP and just to do those park improvement projects really, really quickly. And so that's what's being presented here. This is on the menu, not necessarily recommended, but this is also a park that just needs some TLC. Pickleball court is also being proposed here, but asphalt resurfacing and other things for its court that's around that pickleball court. And then these last two are recommended. These are staff recommendations. You've heard about the turnout replacement, as Councilmember or Member Abernathy has talked about. That's actually a new standard. So these turnout replacements that we're buying is because the standard has increased. And so when it was talked about that this should just be your regular day-to-day operations, this isn't in that category because California state standards of turnouts has changed. And so they have a mandate to replace these over the next few years. So they're trying to, hit this in buckets. So this will be a round of turnouts, and then we'll do another round in years, the next years. And then that last item is another fire station improvement for 3 fire station HVAC, 47,000 for each of those stations. So again, those are past their useful life and need to be updated. That is all we have.
Yes, Committee Member Abernathy.
I bring this up all the time, but I noticed you at least 3-4 times here, you say that things like parks and recreation and these things are support the following PSVS priorities in enhancing amenities, blah, 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 blah. As a person who works on trying to get a voter to understand, the best we can do with a proposition is what's actually on the ballot that they read. And the words on the ballot never said any of that. 75% of the words on the ballot was cops and safety and fire. And it wasn't about basketball and swimming pools. And some of the words included, oversight and things like that. But the initiative was not pushed as something that was going to be doing recreational at these kind of amounts. So when you quote that, that was probably in the 20-page booklet. But what the voters saw was cops, gangs, drugs, police patrols, burglary, and then 6 words that were retain, attract, jobs, and business. So I just want to clarify when this defense is put in here, I don't think that's totally accurate to what the public thought they were voting on when they were talked about. It was so much, 100 new cops was what it was talked about. Thank you.
So I guess I just have a question that the original memo did include additional projects. So are we not are those projects off the list?
Yeah.
Or
Going back to last night, so council was presented with those additional projects. I think the idea of getting council feedback last night prior to coming to PSVS is if there was a very strong sense from council to bump any of those 7 other projects that were in that other menu optional project list. We really didn't get any of those. Those didn't rise to the top and say, hey, I want to add those into a PSVS. And so that's why it was presented to the committee in memo format to say, these are optional projects. If council directs us to move them into the recommended bucket, we'll consider that. So I think that's why they were at least flown and presented to you in the memo, so that if council does at the end of the process in May or June say, hey, we want to move those in, we can say that we've presented those to you.
So when we vote on projects next week, we're not going to consider those projects. Is that what I'm hearing? And I mean, I just want to be clear that we're not considering those additional projects.
I'll need to consult with City Manager Clegg to find out if he does want to. I mean, one of the comments was, were these ranked in any way, like in terms of highest importance to lowest importance? And they weren't. They were just, provided to the council in that format. So maybe we'll come back with a ranking that might be helpful for this committee. I'm just spitballing. I haven't talked to City Manager Clegg, but that could be as the menu of options of projects. Here's what we would rank of one over the other.
So go ahead, Committee Member Avery. Sorry.
I would suggest we get some clarity before our next meeting, and hopefully soon, because don't we have another meeting in a week? And most of us have other things we do.
Yeah.
So hopefully get some clarity and some direction from City Council, City Manager. I don't know where that clarity comes from, but
for our purposes today, I think it'll come from the City Manager's office for our next meeting. And as we're considering these, and again, I hate to throw this into the the mix, and I if others want to chime in, feel free. But I think you heard from Vice Chair Campbell. Sorry to elevate you. That there is a concern. I share it with a direct allocation to the general fund. And with us being asked to do that, and not necessarily my concern to the vice chair's point is not in the front end. It is our sole role is to say that the funds were spent in accordance with the measure. And if we're just writing a check to the general fund, it is hard for us to, even when we have an audit report, like ideologically with a straight face, like defend it and say, yes, we can say that. I also don't think that it's the best look. And I would, again, this is just my thoughts. I do not think that we should be spending every PSVS dollar that comes in. I don't even think we should be like, to committee member Reed's point, we should be patting ourselves on the back that we saved and that we're gonna fund that in. We need to be talking about what are we doing to build the city's reserves? What are we doing to build the pension trust fund with PSVS dollars? Those are things that I want to see, but that's just me, and I'm not a policymaker. I'm just a citizen. So with that, I will shut up and turn it over to my colleagues. Yep, Vice Chair.
Doing the just quick math here on these items that you did provide to us, it doesn't add up to the any of the categories on slide captioned expenditure summary. So if I understand correctly, there are a lot of things that this committee has already considered that are baked into the budget. I understand that. So they roll over from year to year, and we don't seek repeated approval unless the city council takes us up on our invitation to do that. But we're being told there are one-time operating expenditures of $12,980,000, an estimated transfer to the general fund of $11,995,000, estimated capital projects of $7,305,000. I don't know where in this summary of the expenditures these items we're asked to vote on are, and I'm not satisfied as to why we're not being asked to consider any of the rest of those. Is it your representation?
So, I'll try to answer your question first, and I think Mr. McKeegan could also. The end portion of the meeting that I had just covered, those are one-time projects. So in terms of going back to your expenditure summary, it's the 7.3 million that's on that slide. So the 5 recommended projects are actually well below that 7.3 category to give space for if any of these other menu type projects want to be added in. So that's just to address one-time expenditures, and that's what the purpose of that portion of the presentation. So I can just do it real quickly. The 738,000, the PARI, the MLK, and the fire turnouts in the fire station, that equals about $4.6 million of the 7.3. So there's space there. There's a gap there to say if you want to throw more in, you can, and you always want to do that, right? So in terms of we aren't budgeting the full amount available for the one time of what staff is recommending. That answers that question.
So the bullet item one-time operating of $12,980,000, those are items that city administration's position is that this committee has already considered and offered input on. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct. The amounts that are being presented to you are coming out of that $7 million pot of one-time monies. The $12 million and the rest of the numbers in that $117 million budget are considered to be approved, if you want to use that term, or at least have been presented to the committee in previous years.
Got it. So out of $117,680,000, there are about $4 million of that budget that you're asking for oversight on from the Citizens Oversight Committee for this budget. Is that right?
That is correct.
All right. And then the other items that you provided us, like the bridge at Beach Park and some of these things, you're not even asking us to give input on that because the city's not considering those at this time.
Yeah, they've been allocated already in previous budgets. So those dollars are, as was previously said, encumbered and contracted out already. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Committee Member Garcia, and then I think Committee Member Reed.
Yeah, I think as a new commissioner, it'd be helpful to see kind of a breakdown of some of these past projects, just for continuity purposes as well, to continue the conversation and be able to provide insight on these new projects and have something to be able to compare it to, right? I think I'd also be interested to know in this transfer to the general fund, and this can come at next week's meeting as well, is it's about 10% of the total budget. How much has been transferred yearly? And is it looking like we're increasing these transfers to the general fund, or are we decreasing the transfers to the general fund? And just what the general economic outlook looks like for these transfers these next few years.
Yeah, Committee Member Garcia, yeah, I can actually provide you the detail at the next meeting, but that amount that is at least earmarked for this year is the same amount as that was earmarked last year. So it's not going up, but in previous years it was a smaller amount, but I can give you the details. I believe we started doing this 3 budget cycles ago. So before that, it was not, there was no allocation from the PSVS just for general fund expenditures.
Yeah, and that'd be good numbers to see, just again to see if this going to potentially keep increasing next year, and a higher percentage of an increase to the transfer to the general fund.
I will say that the budget reductions that we're moving forward with, that forecasting discussion that we talked about previously, I touched on about a 17% reduction. Part of that is meant to reduce this, actually not increase it. So as we move forward with the 5% this year, 5% next year, the 5% subsequent year, we anticipate that the amount that is required from PSVS will also diminish.
All right, Committee Member Reed.
Okay, I have a little bit of a laundry list of questions, and I'm sure it's going to be information that you're going to have to bring back to us. So can I just rattle them all off to you all at one time? And we'll just go. Okay. Yeah. You do today, maybe not, maybe not later. I think we've kind of talked about this, but I would definitely like to see a breakdown of, at a minimum, the one-time operating expenses of the 12.9. I would be really curious to see what's in there. And then as we get to the projects that were kind of the, well, no, I'm still in other stuff. The positions that are funded out of PSVS. The memo that we received said that there were 295 positions that are funded out of PSVS. I would be really curious to see, for the categories that are covered by PSVS, so I'm not talking the entire city employee population, I'm talking only those departments that would be considered eligible for PSVS funding for their employees. What percentage of their population is funded out of PSVS? Does that question make sense? Okay, because I'm curious as to when we start looking at percentage, where those people are and what departments they're in. And then I am a little bit curious, I would, similar to Committee Member Garcia, curious on the contribution to the general fund. And then on the project specifically, the firefighter turnout replacement. I understand saying that the standards have changed, and so it's prompting, what I understand is that it's prompting early replacement. So I'm curious as to what percentage are we having to replace early versus what is just normal replacement, and what percentage of the total turnout, inventory does that equate to? And then one other kind of question with respect to the fire station repairs, the HVAC systems that we're looking at for this year, and it looks like in previous years we've done others. Is there more, or is this kind of the end of that kind of deferred maintenance that we're playing catch up on? Let me see if there's anything else. I think that's about all that comes to mind right now.
I'm going to ask that you hold, Chief, just because we're at time, and I know that I know that people are getting antsy, and I need at least 3 people, me and 2 others, to shut this down. So, for Robert to be Robert's rules correct, somebody make a motion, somebody second it, somebody chair. Yeah, no, but if there are other questions, comments, other things that we would like brought back to us, I don't want anybody to feel like they don't have the time to request that. Okay. All right. With that, Madam Clerk, I think then we need a motion to receive and file staff's report, correct?
Correct.
All right. Do I have? Okay. I have a motion from Member Garcia and a second from Member Avery. Please call the roll.
Member Abernathy? Aye. Member Avery? Aye. Member Campbell? Aye. Member Garcia? Aye. Member Harmon? Member Madlin? Chair Ortiz?
Aye.
Member Reed? Aye. Member Rojas Mora? The motion is approved.
Okay. Do we have anything left to say under Commissioner's comments? Seeing none. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. And thank you to staff, and thank you for your presentations and preparation. We appreciate it.